Hey, Kate.
You're what do you oh, you're here. I see you're
Oh,
here.
okay. Okay, got it. Okay, thanks. Got it.
Hey, Jose. How's it going?
Oh, good. I was trying to find a link for you,
Sorry, no, I'm just making myself a cup of tea. We've got 10 minutes.
but
Just
can
rushing.
you I can't see myself.
Can you turn your webcam on?
It's on.
Can you go on the testing? So you've got in the bottom left corner in Zoom, you've got the little stop video, and you can choose if you have multiple webcam options. You may also need to give Zoom permission to access your camera.
Oh,
There
there
you
it
go.
is.
Perfect.
How's the lighting and everything?
That's what I'm here to go over with you. You both look great, super clear, really, really good. That's awesome. It's really good quality internet, sharp camera, better than other guests I've had before. So that's really good. Excellent. And you
How's
sound
the baby, Adam?
good. It's slightly my concern because she usually goes to sleep around midday, right? She woke up at 6 and now she's hasn't gone to sleep yet. Her room is behind me, and this weekend I'm moving my office into the spare room because she's too old now. She's 2 and owns the house basically. So it gives me very
Do you
limited flexibility in webinars. I need to be able to close the door.
do you have somebody, is your wife there to in
Yeah,
case okay,
Karina,
because I'm like, what if she
Karina's
starts
usually
whining
here
in the
like
middle of
during the
it?
day. Exactly. No, no, exactly. I try and
Yeah.
plan the webinars normally around her downtime, but yeah, she
Yeah.
turned 2 like 2 weeks ago, and she's actually like a 4-year old. So it's just
Oh.
it's been a quick learning curve. Give me two
Aw.
seconds. I'm gonna get a cup of tea. I'll be right back, and I'll go over all the stuff with you before we start in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go brush my teeth so I just have breakfast.
No, no worries.
I'm so nervous.
I'll be fine.
What? Don't be. You're an expert and a local.
Okay, I got the questions. It's just that I have three monitors, Kayleen, and sometimes, you get lost in translation. You think that it would be easier, but sometimes having three monitors, it could be a challenge. I'm just gonna,
I would turn off the other monitors during this so you don't get distracted by client stuff.
no, I'm gonna, yeah, I closed off creation and I just took a nap for Christmas. I mean, for New Year's. And I'm gonna shut up the phone too. I'll be back.
Okay.
Ajá, exacto. Okay. Frog TV. I'm going to close that door. Extra light for me. It's a bit dark in here. So this is the webinar. Let's get the Costa Rica flag in the shot. Okay, so this whole thing is recording the whole time. Nothing really changes. In 7 minutes, I just hit the button which says start webinar. And then everybody that signed up, we're currently at 2025. It's slightly lower number than before. It's probably because it's the Christmas terminology. Whenever we do a subject that is a very heavy SEO term, a lot of people are interested, but it's also, we're doing the first webinar in December, the week before Christmas. So people are probably in their vacation mode. So as important as it is that we do it live, the most valuable thing is that we load this video to YouTube afterwards. So this remains on our channel. So when people want to understand anything about Christmas, hopefully they'll come back and watch this video. We'll then cut it down next year with my new audiovisual guy to basically cut everything we discuss in snippets and create shorts for social media. The little things that you guys say are really, really valuable. So that's where ultimately the value in this long form content lives, as well as occasionally creating leads, and people would maybe contact you directly.
Jose, is this your first time on the webinar?
Yeah.
Oh, you'll get leads. I got quite a few. They'll come in and be like, I heard you on the webinar, and yada yada yada. It's pretty nice. Adam, I need to share Froglog link, or not Froglog, Frog TV links more on my social. I keep forgetting we have a YouTube.
No, I know. And we are going to be working, when we get out of this crazy phase of redesigning the new website, then the new itinerary, get back to creating. I'm going to have Pablo and now Julian, our second audiovisual guy, basically creating more videos for the questions that we've gone over and over the last 6, 7, 8 years, but in a more modern fashion. So we need more shorts on YouTube. We need to do the same reels for Instagram. Now we're trying to figure out who's going to do stuff on TikTok. I'm not necessarily going to manage as much of that, but
not me. I am
Not
not on
me.
TikTok and have
not.
no plans to be on TikTok.
it's the same. It's the same for me. So I'm like, okay, who do I get that I?
Is it okay if I keep my headset or
Yeah,
or not?
that's fine. Yeah. So let me see if I can.
Can we review some questions?
Yes.
It's so cold in San Pedro. You have no idea. It was 16 degrees this morning. Oh,
that's awesome, you lucky bugger. I love it.
yeah. No, it's great. It's great.
If you can control yourself, stay warm. That's the nice stuff.
La Fortuna or San Carlos area is like, it kind of feels like San Ramon a little bit, like a warmer San Ramon. It has not stopped raining in like a month. Like
it's still going.
It is still going, but it's like most days it is super, super bipolar, like drenching in the morning and then clear skies for a couple hours and then total clouds over, drenching again, and then clear skies. It's like super weird. And then you get days like today where it's just gloomy and rainy and chilly and breezy. So it's definitely a wetter December than normal.
It's really clear here and it hasn't rained much. It's the first day where I can see this massive cloud coming in, which has been nice because in Romoser, so Western San Jose. So I get the view of it already. Romoser, so San Jose, west of San Jose. Near
by the Hilton. It's by the Hilton, the Hilton Savannah.
So from the Hilton, I live 5 minutes down the road on the other side of that small shopping mall, Plaza Mayor. Yeah, close to Casey. Like Casey just lives between me and the Hilton up the road.
So and everything I sound good. Everything is good.
You both sound great, sharp. Yeah, I'm just making sure Pablo's online. Pablo is going to provide me links offline. Pablo and Wendy used to attend the webinar, but the problem was they don't really engage in the conversation. So people were asking, when are these guys going to speak? And it's really having you guys as the experts to answer the questions. So are you okay to help with questions and links? So I've got Slack here silent. So Pablo's going to send me any offline links. I'm going to be sending links. So you see this little Q&A box. You can open that. No questions yet. I'm going to open this up to anybody watching, and potentially Laura and Pablo at CRV can answer questions. So if we have more questions as we go, we will answer those at the end, and I'll be advertising that throughout the webinar, basically. If there's few questions, I'll ask Pablo to, hey, can you do a couple of fake questions? What do people want to know? It's open to everything. So although we're discussing Christmas, there can be questions about the weather, when's the best time to travel, how much colon is to the dollar, blah, blah, blah. And that's usually about 10, 15 minutes towards the end. Depending on how we go, it could be slightly longer. It could be 50 minutes. It could be an hour and 5 minutes. Usually we'll be wrapped up by 12. That's about it.
Obviously, just say everything positively, just because, we're talking about the weather. like the weather in Christmas, it's unpredictable. Look, but it's raining in Arenal, and
No, you
always
need to
we
be
get this.
truthful. You don't need
We,
to put it. This is a truthful put. This is, you guys are the experts. This is what you would say to your clients on the phone. And the thing about Christmas is it's the good, the bad, and the crazy ugly. Like, this isn't for everybody. Of course you're coming because it's your holiday, but you be prepared to be slammed with people if you're going to an all-inclusive resort, and be prepared to pay twice as much money. With it, we don't silver tin this. This is what makes us the experts. Of course, we don't need to be negative, say don't bother coming, I'm not taking any leads. But there's a way of turning it into a realistic conversation, right? Yeah, so I've got all the questions. We start in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I will throw them to you by name, and then hopefully you guys will also go back and forth at the same time. But I'll direct most of the conversation. Halfway through, I'll remind people about the Q&A. Nothing changes. I'm literally, in a minute, I'm going to hit start webinar, and you don't see anybody. You're just going to see people, the participants at the bottom. Only thing at the end, when I say goodbye, I can't stay on the call. So when I say goodbye, I will hit end, and it will end for everybody. And I'll just follow up with you guys on Slack, as there's no way of kicking the people out, but we stay on to summarize. Okay. So just so sometimes I feel bad that I'm like, bye guys, and then it's gone. Just so you know, that's what's happening. I've got the questions in front of me. Where do I put them? If you can, the only other thing before we start, we're about to start. If you see questions in the chat and you want to answer them, please do go ahead and answer them when the other person is speaking. If you do want to write an answer, I'm going to say that if there is time, Kate and Jose will answer the questions, but we will get back to you directly at the end of the session.
So are these people, so this is a new thing, right? These live webinars?
This is the 6th one we've done. We started in July, August.
Yeah, so they're the public is joining us in this Zoom link.
Correct. I'm about to literally hit start webinar. Everybody's waiting in a room right now. There's about 20, 25 people. A couple of staff members, mostly found on LinkedIn and Facebook. This is my daughter. I'm going to, 2 seconds.
I always watch the recording. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. And that's the whole point. But doing it live is also kind of fun, at the same time.
Yeah.
So she's out. That's good. And when I'm about to go and hit live, I've got a light in here. So she's looking at that. Okay, let's do this, guys. In 3, 2, start. Hello, guys, and welcome back to another live Costa Rican Vacations webinar. I hope everybody's well. I hope you're joining us from all over the globe. This is a fun monthly topic, as we, of course, in the festive season approaching the holidays, we are going to discuss everything related to traveling to Costa Rica here at Christmas. And believe me, it's quite a topic to unwrap. Today, I've got 2 of our top experts, Jose Brenes. Jose, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Hey, guys, how you doing?
Good. Good stuff, Jose. And Caitlinsummer. How are you doing, Kate?
Hola. Good.
So, guys, Kate and Jose have been at CRV for many years as travel experts. You've probably seen Caitlin actually on a couple of previous pieces of marketing. We've got our Costa Rican Vacation podcast, the Costa Rica Travel and Living. So if you want to check that out, please do feel free to go over to YouTube. You can listen to more of these podcasts, videos, and our webinars. Don't forget that if you haven't been able to attend this webinar live, usually tomorrow afternoon, we will be posting it on our website and our YouTube channel, so you can double back and get in touch. As ever, we're going to have a Q&A session afterwards, so please do get your questions into us. And after discussion about everything Costa Rica related for Christmas, we'll go over some of those questions and answers directly. And they can be related to anything at all. Whether you're traveling next year, you're coming next week for Christmas, let us know and we'll get back to you. If you're watching after the fact, you can actually leave your questions in the description box on YouTube and we'll follow up with you directly. Of course, as always, you'll have Caitlin's and Jose's email contacts directly, which I'll post towards the end in the chat, but also, of course, in the description box when rewatching this, if you're following up again on YouTube. So, guys, without further ado, we've got loads of questions to get in. I'm also going to share a website. I've got, as ever, Pablo helping us on the back end. That's the noise that you'll hear. So in the chat, I'm going to share this with everybody. Here we go, everyone. You can actually double check our website and there's all of our Christmas links as well on the Costa Rican Vacations website. And many of these links I will share with you guys as well in the description box on YouTube. So you can always reference. But hey, let's get going, guys. There's a lot to cover here. And of course, there's the big topic, and I'm going to start with number one. Caitlin, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to throw it over to you. Realistically, when should you look to plan your Christmas vacation, and how far in advance do you really need to book to get exactly what you want? How do you answer that?
Yeah, great question. So the golden question, get asked this a lot. I always recommend a minimum of 6 months in advance, because the reality is we're booking, or hotels in general are booking out usually 8 months in advance. So minimum 6 months in advance, and that would be the absolute minimum. But to give you an idea, like, we have already started booking trips for next November and next December. I even booked a trip for 2026 the other day. So
Wow.
it's people book out far, and every single year we're seeing more people book further in advance because hotels are already selling out that far. And it also, a lot of the hotels here in Costa Rica have 40 or fewer rooms, so they tend to book quicker because there's not 100, 200 rooms to sell. So if you want, your best top choices, then minimum 6 months, preferably 8 to 12 months in advance for the peak holiday season, December 15th to January 5th.
Yeah, yeah, so true. Jose, sometimes people, I feel, when I was selling vacations a while ago, I remember the hesitancy in, like, you're talking about Christmas, maybe like Kate says, 8 to 10 months out, February, March, April, before. And they're like, well, I've got time, there's going to be space. And they maybe feel like it's a closing tactic to help sales. How wrong is that? And how do you actually explain that there really is extremely limited space, and Costa Rica has a finite amount of space for the hotel that you want first?
Well, it all comes down to what kind of trip and hotels are you looking for, because all the good hotels sell out, like, it's 6 to 8 months in advance. If you're looking for specific destinations with the best hotels, then I would say 8 months in advance. It's always challenging because people always think, I'll have time, and guess what? You come back to us, a few months after you inquired first, then we're not going to have the space that you wanted to do. So secure your reservations, in advance is highly recommended, just because if you're looking for something at a specific, it all comes down to a lot of restrictions. I'm sure that we're gonna cover that, but thinking about a number of nights required, checking out on the 31st, dinner, mandatory dinners, and of course, pricing, which tends to be, 40, 30, 50% higher than other times of the year. So that's something in consideration.
Yeah. I mean, this question, I've got many questions, but this question is the biggest one because you can just open the can of worms, right? Number one is, if you do want to go, if you want to get the hotel you want, number one, book it a year in advance. Like you say, Kate, plan, 10, 12 months out. We're doing this webinar, obviously December, Christmas is next week, but a lot of people might be going into January thinking about Christmas 2025. So if you want to get the first choice, the hotel that you guys are looking at, like you mentioned, do be prepared to pay more, but make sure you book that accommodation side first. Kate, how do you answer the question when it comes to flights? Because obviously, you discussed the golden rule of the 3 to 5 month window. Is that still the case for Christmas? And should you lock in the hotels first?
Yeah, so I actually love this question because I consider myself a flight guru. I have a lot of different ways in which I figure out flight deals, and then I relay that info to travelers. So when it comes to flights, the general rule of thumb that I have understood for holiday season is or international travel in general, is 4 to 6 months out. For peak holiday season, usually 6 to 8 months out for flights. They might fluctuate. It might get a little bit cheaper if you wait that 6 month mark, but then you're also risking like less routes and less availability in which you can fly to. So like maybe you have like only red eye flights, or arriving really late or leaving really early. So for flights, I would say 4 to 6 months out, six to eight if it's for like peak. And I mean, when it comes to looking at flights for holiday season, I always say use your resources. So there's three websites that I use to get the best deal. There's Google Flights, This is the easiest one. You can track it, and then it'll send you an email every single time that the flight prices change. So you don't have to worry about always searching it.
Yeah.
So Google Flights. Another app like Hopper is a good one just to like kind of see, okay, is it now a good time to book or should you wait? Not necessarily booking through Hopper. Sometimes they have better deals, but just so that they track and say, hey, you should wait, or hey, you should go ahead and book this right now.
Yeah.
So those are the two that I recommend using in conjunction with each other to get the best deals. And then of course you can always look on Expedia or Flights Radar, or there's a bunch of Mondo Mondo is a Latin American one that not a lot of people know about, but they tend to have like really crazy cheap deals. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do it, but definitely tracking those flights and not just, you know, putting it to the side. Oh, I'll check back in a couple months, because you never know. The middle of the week, flights could just drop randomly as a way to get people to book, because maybe like the demand isn't high. Also, little tidbit, and I know this from a family friend who's an airline pilot, they make mistakes. So sometimes the flight prices will drop and it'll just be like, what is this, like, is this real? And it is real. It's because the airlines made a mistake, but you can book that flight. And so you're only going to know that if you're tracking the flights and you get an email that says, hey, the flights just dropped $300. So little tidbit there, a pro tip.
But also when I just chip in that waiting for flights, it can also mean that you're risking the fact that you're going to be losing the space eventually. So a lot of people tend to like, I'm gonna book my flights first and then I'll book the hotels. Don't do that. Book the hotels first, and then let's book and then you can secure the flights. You know why? Because usually the legacy airlines will be publishing the first fares at the beginning of the month. United, Delta, American, they will publish the highest fares for Christmas when you start looking for your trip, let's say, in February, March. But guess what? As we go into the year, airlines will start adding more flights and adding more fares, which it goes up and down. And I've also noticed that people that wait until August to book their flights, then that's when the low budget airlines such as Southwest and what's
Spirit.
it called? Spirit and Frontier, JetBlue, they will be posting their fares. And also as their competition goes into effect, then the legacy airlines will start publishing more routes and more fares. So that's always the deal.
Super valuable point.
And to piggyback, and Jose makes a really good point. So the question is with a lot of people is like, okay, well, this trip looks amazing and I'm like prepared to, and I want to book, 6-8 months out, but like flights aren't even out yet. So it's kind of like this weary thought, like, well, one or the other, no, I have to wait for flights first. And like Jose said, it's actually opposite. So especially when you're booking with us, we have a guarantee, or a no risk basically booking. So for example, you can book your flight or you book your package trip for next December, and wait for the flights to come out. And if flights come out and there's great pricing, but you need to change your dates a little bit, no problem. We can transfer the dates over to any time. If it turns out they're like, yeah, flights are just not in the cards this year, I need to cancel my trip, also no problem. We have coverage where you can cancel 100% money back up to 35 days. So there's really no risk about it. But like Jose said, like booking your hotels first is ideal. So you get your top picks, you get the hotels you want, and you're not stuck with like just 3 or 4 hotel options that may all be $1,200 a night. And then your whole trip doesn't work out.
Cost even more.
Sure. And another thing about, especially with all-inclusive hotels that they work with dynamic rates, we usually get the best rates early in the year, the early booking bonus rate. So let's say if you're going to stay at the Westin, an all-inclusive resort, if you book by, February, March, you're locking in the best, lowest guarantee rate that it's going to go higher eventually in the year, just because the hotels will spike up the rates based on occupancy rate. You know what I mean? So booking early, especially if you're thinking about all-inclusive resorts that always have, a 5 minimum night stay during the holidays, then that's something that you want to do, that lock in the early booking bonus rates, because those rates will, substantially increase throughout the year.
It's a really good point.
100%.
Yeah, and this really talks to that, the value of trying to book your Christmas vacation 10 to 12 months out, because it's very rare that you'll ever get any special deal. You mentioned the early booking bonus, which is probably the only one at Christmas time, because they know hotels here in the country, the closer to the time, they're going to sell out and then some. They even close out many rooms for themselves to sell directly allotments, which then becomes even more complex when you see spaces here, but then someone else tells you spaces there and you're not entirely sure. So if you get the early booking bonus, if you do try and plan it, you'll get what you want. You may potentially get a discount, and then trust that, like you guys said, around 5, 6 months before the flight competitors will come out, you can track the flights, as Kate mentioned. It's not exactly a leap of faith because you also have payment plans. We have cancellation policies as well for your vacation side. Really, really valuable tips. I'm going to go ahead and share a link here, which is our flight guide. It's a larger, extensive page, but it might have some information for the year round, so you can double check on our website. Yeah, guys, fantastic information, and really, really good about the airlines as well, because the airlines are a whole separate beast. Obviously, the prices closer to the time will go up. Kate, more or less, what kind of percentage is typical in terms of a hotel's rate going up? So say a hotel cost $500 at the lowest season, September to November. What is normal then for that 4-star hotel? How much will that price jump?
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, on average, hotels typically increase over the years 10% in their rates. Do all hotels increase? No. But do the most popular ones increase? 100%, because they can sell it. People will book them. So 7 to 10% in general, but most of the time it's going to be closer to that 10% more every single year. It's interesting because from when I started working with Costa Rican Vacations 4 years ago, I'm looking at some of our more popular hotels like the Springs, Kioro, Tabacón, and La Fortuna area specifically. And I'm just like, wow, in 2020, these hotels were like $150, $200 less than what they are right now. It's a real thing. And I get clients, a lot of people who visited Tabacón, very popular luxury, best hot springs in the area hotel. That was like, oh yeah, we visited 15 years ago at Tabacón, loved it. Well, 15 years ago, Tabacón was like less than $200 a night. Now it's like $400 or $500 plus a night. So yeah, they do increase every single year.
If I may chip in there, one thing that is happening, guys, that nobody is really talking about is the currency exchange with the colon and the dollar. The dollar is becoming a little weaker. The colon is getting a little stronger. And what that does mean is that, partners, hotels, everybody gets paid in dollars, and then they pay the employees and everything else in colones. So now everybody is getting less colones to pay their employees. So subsequently, that's one of the reasons they're going to have to increase the rates to be able to afford having a staff, available for Christmas when there's so much demand and there's so many people in the hotels. So that's another thing that hotels will increase, by 2025, just because of the conversion that is happening right now.
That's a really insightful point. Something that hasn't really been an issue for about 10 to 15 years. The colon's been, depreciating slowly as the dollar gets stronger. I remember when I first came to Costa Rica nearly 20 years ago, it was 480, 475. Then it shot up to above 600, nearly 700 colones, and now we're back down to 500. So, you have $10, that's 5,000 colones. That's a really good point. That's not generally the standard. Kate's right with the usual more or less 10% increase year over year. But also, I think, Jose, it's important to mention that if you were coming from maybe a week's vacation, you're staying at 4 or 5-star hotels, you're staying at 2 locations. In the standard year, maybe, in the peaks, in the high season, I should say January to April, you might be spending $5,000, perhaps for a couple having a really nice time. But that $5,000 is going to be close to $7,000 if you're spending the same week at Christmas. A room that maybe costs $750 throughout the year is now going to cost $1,250. So it's going to go up $500. And that's not something that you guys should understand. I think it's important. We're not putting the rates up. It's Christmas travel. Like Kate says, the hotels are going to move the rooms. They know they are. Costa Rica is really, really popular, right? Year over year. Jose, when people ask you, wow, I didn't expect to be spending that much, is that, how do you explain that? It's like I've said, it's just the cost of the rooms, and that's what they're going for.
Well, it always has, to normally travel around the holidays. When you travel, during the holidays, pretty much all over the world, you're expecting an increase,
Yeah,
and not only in flights, but only in hotels. So that's just the rule of thumb. From the 20th through the 5th, 20th of December through the 5th of January, everything's gonna be a little bit more expensive. But of course, everybody wants to travel during the holidays, and it's great. It's great that you come in and visiting us. But it's just that know that, if you comparing, let's say, Christmas time with June, then the difference is going to be significantly,
yeah, much higher.
much higher.
Uh, I mean, it's so true. And again, I guess, because of course you have your holiday. It's the two busiest weeks in the whole year on the Christmas calendar, right? We have the high season from January. Spring break is quite expensive, February, March time. The Easter break goes up a little bit, gets a bit quieter before the summer. And then obviously the low season, September to November, December here. And then bang, 2 weeks of Christmas. Let's turn around the topics a little bit. Before I go on to the next question, guys, please don't forget to get your questions into us. Jose and Kate will try and answer them live, but we will actually have a Q&A discussion for any questions that come in shortly. We've got a ton of questions to get through here. I've got some awesome links, which I'm going to send to you as well. I've also got the best time of travel. I'll send you a few YouTube links as well here in the chat if you guys want to check that out. Caitlin, what should someone expect? So you've booked your vacation. You're coming next week. You're arriving into San Jose or Liberia. What's Costa Rica like during the holidays? What are the hotels like?
Yeah, so it's super festive. Of course, there's going to be holiday decor. People tend to be a little bit more holiday cheer. It's more light. But that also means there's more people. So you can definitely expect there's just, if you're wanting to avoid crowds, December's not the time. But that doesn't mean that it's a bad time. It's just, any place you travel to is going to have crowds during December, January.
Yeah.
Now, in some towns, like the more popular towns, there's a lot, like sometimes they'll have not festivals, but little parades. A lot of restaurants will have live music. I know over New Year, some restaurants will on the coastline will do fireworks. And then a lot of traditional things too. So in Costa Rica, we actually celebrate Christmas on the 24th mostly. So a lot of times there's celebrations on the 24th in the local town. And then my favorite is if you're depending on your itinerary or how you're traveling, if you have time to along the route of you traveling to whatever destination you're going to, you might pass by fun towns that have the most beautiful lights. So in Costa Rica, all the main towns have the same type of park. It is a square. There is a cathedral church in the center, and it's usually really nice to walk around. Well, in December, they light it up like a Christmas tree. It's so pretty. And so if you're coming from San Jose, going to La Fortuna, for example, you could stop in a town called San Ramon or even Sarcero. And it's just beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. And it's a great little stop to like walk out, get a coffee, a pastry, stretch your legs. It's just stunning. So things like that happen around. And then, you have a lot of times like the American Christmas food as well.
Yeah.
So a little bit of everything.
It's a nice mix on site at the hotels. Of course, they tend to be a lot more
Yeah.
busy. So you need to go with that mentality to be aware of how busy it's going to be. You make a lovely point about the places you can stop in between locations with the lights. Sarcero, very famous here in Costa Rica. Jose, as a nacional, as a Tico yourself, what are some of the things that you look forward to with your own family, but also things that some of your clients ask of you around Christmas or even New Year? What are some traditional things that you enjoy?
It's funny. I was just talking to a client the other day, and I said, do you definitely have to try tamales, the local tamale, which is the corn flour made tamales with vegetables, and it's very, very homemade. They put some, olives and eggs, and if you're, pork, it's the traditional, or chicken, or they can make
Yeah.
it vegetarian as well, so they all have that. So a tamal, it's a must for every Costa Rican. We look forward to December to have a tamal, one or two, just because you get a lot of calories, but they're fantastic. Usually homemade are the best. I have a lady in Cartago in town that makes fresh tamales, and they're just absolutely delicious. And also rompope, which is eggnog, which is with
Oh,
a little bit
yeah.
of rum. This is what I grew up with: tamales, rompope, drinking around the tree. And I come from a big family, so we gather around the nativity set and the Christmas tree. One of the things that I love about Christmas is, the churches. Even you don't have to be a believer to admire the architecture of the local churches, but in every church in Costa Rica during the Christmas time, they have these big nativity sets, and with lights and with flowers and poinsettias and stuff. So that alone is something very cultural to, like Kaylin was saying, not only the lights in every city, in every country. Like I live in San Jose, and I love the decor. I just go on my own and drive around and walk around just to see the lights. But something I love about there's still a tradition that we still have our nativity sets in the churches. That's something, they're amazing because they're huge, and we have these images, from years. So it's something very cultural. And our driver can pull over, on the way to the beach or on the way to a volcano to find a local, eatery, like a soda, what we call, the soda is where we have the tamales. So stop at a local soda, eat a tamal, have a coffee, go to the church, visit the nativity set, and that's a great a holiday tradition in Costa Rica for sure.
Love it. Yeah, it's really true. And for me, obviously, as a British guy, been here for a long time, but it's still weird sometimes to celebrate Christmas in the tropics. Maybe Caitlin, you probably experienced that as well, living here.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I'm from the US, so during holiday season here, it is totally different, especially because I'm from Texas, so it's like we don't have a December. It's
Yeah,
so
okay.
hot. So
Yeah.
like it is here, but it's still, even though I've been here for a while, I mean, I've been traveling here since 2016. The holidays still are very special, and I'd rather be in Costa Rica than in the US, because I feel like there's just more of a warmth and more love, and just everyone just comes together. And even this past week, going to the grocery store, things are different. There's the banana leaves all around to get your tamales ready, or your tamales ready. So the banana leaves are popping up everywhere. And my neighbors, just over the fence, here's rompope, here's your tamales, like just gifting it. Our family today, or my husband is Tico, and actually today, they went to, his parents, or my what do you call it? Not sister-in-law, parents-in-law, mother-in-law, father-in-law, over
Suegros.
there in
Suegra.
Suegros.
And today is the day that they're prepping the tamales, prepping everything to then make them on December 24th. So that's happening right now, and all over the place. And they make, I mean, we make hundreds, and then we walk around the local town and just gift them out. So it's just so nice. And I think maybe something similar is like that in the US, maybe like with cookies.
Yeah.
But it's a different feeling. It just feels,
And you can get
so
them at the supermarket as well. But of course, homemade is always going to taste so much different.
That's a really nice thing about being in Costa Rica. Obviously, there's a close connection, and you do see a lot of the traditions different, around the country. Obviously, from North America, I see even more British food occasionally in the supermarkets here, mixed with those local traditions. So it's a really nice a mix of cultures for sure. Jose, what's it like in terms of weather? People don't not necessarily think, because everybody books anyway, they know they want to come at Christmas. How do you summarize weather at Christmas time here?
Well, global warming has changed all over the place, and it certainly has changed Costa Rica. I started, in travel in the early 90s. So things have sort of like they were like standard for a long time, but in 15 years, we always get these like cold fronts coming from the Caribbean that affects the country. And these cold fronts come from North America. You know, when it gets cold up there, then we get them through the Caribbean, and then it could be very rainy in the Caribbean and the mountains and the northern slopes of Costa Rica. Whereas the summer, it's completely beautiful, sunny and warm, and so it could be very unpredictable if you're visiting the Caribbean area. You know, it could be very sunny in the Pacific, but then you go to the Caribbean, it's completely draining just because that it's going to take a few, for a few days. It doesn't rain like, a whole week, but the cold fronts do, come in throughout December and even part of January. So, plan ahead, parka, light jacket, a sweater is necessary. Even in San Jose, this time of the year, it's chilly for us. Well, we're so used to the warm weather. Chilly for me, it's about 65 degrees, 60 degrees, even upper 50s, sometimes at night. And that's when we pull out our sweaters, even our scarves to go out, which is nice for a change in San Jose. But always light jacket, rain, waterproof, a sweater. Even if you're thinking that you're not going to be needing it at the beach, you may be surprised. The temperature may drop here and there as you travel extensively through the country. So plan prepared for sure.
Yeah, it's certainly, especially living in San Jose at the slightly higher altitude, you notice the winds. It's really funny for me. I see Caitlin smiling, and she probably feels the same when I go shopping at Christmas. I see everybody with their hats and scarves as if they're ready for it to be 0 degrees, 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Where's the snow? But it's like in Britain, 20 degrees Celsius, 65 is beach weather for us, so I'm still out in shorts. But it is nice to have a fresher night.
It's a transitional weather for sure. It's transitional weather. It's the beginning, it's the end of the rainy season, and it's the beginning of the summer season, but always, think about it. If you're coming for the tropics and you think you go, oh, I'm going to be warm, it's going to be so hot. Yes, it's going to be warm, but just, bring a sweater just in case, and a light jacket just because you're going to need it for sure. It could drop any minute.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, especially if you're traveling into multiple locations in Costa. Like if you're just going to the beach, you'll probably be okay.
Okay.
But most of the time, people are coming and visiting 2 to 3 locations. So, like Jose said, bring your shorts and your tanks and your flops, but also pack a light sweater too, because Costa Rica has over 28 subclimates. So, for example, like last week, I live in San Carlos near the Arenal volcano, and I drove from here to Guanacaste. And from here to Guanacaste, in that time, the weather changed over a 10-degree like span through the whole drive, and that's only a 3.5-hour drive. So, when I was up in the mountains, go crossing over the mountain range through Rio Celeste, it was cold. Like I put my seat warmers on in my car. Like it was cold. And then when I get to the beach, I'm like, okay, like take everything off. It's like so hot. And then now I'm back in San Carlos, and it's kind of like in the middle. It's like not super hot, but not super cold. So yeah, like December, January, you kind of have to pack for a little bit of everything.
Same thing if you arrive in San Jose. I'm sorry, Adam. If you arrive in San Jose, it's technically Alajuela. It's going to be warmer weather. But as you go up the mountains to go to Arenal, you're going to drive by San Ramon. San Ramon is kind of high up in the altitude. Same thing with Salcedo. The temperatures are going to be dropping, and it can be very kind of foggy for about 45-minute drive, and then as you go down the mountains, then the weather is going to start clear up. So
100%. It's funny, we've got some questions coming in which are great. Someone anonymous we'll get to those questions shortly, but talking about the Osa in the south, if you're driving to the Osa, you go over the famous Cerro de la Muerte, which is above 10,000 feet here, and that gets really cold. There's even seen random snow showers. Again, that's not to say it's that cold all over the country, but there is an incredible geographical variety, as you mentioned, Kate, in terms of the climate zones here. So yeah, being prepared in a light sweater is for sure a good one. I totally agree. I'm going to share a link with you guys here, which is if you are traveling in December, we have a specific page on that, so you can talk and read in a little bit more about the transitional weather. As mentioned, guys, please do keep getting your questions in. Laura has also sent us a question in, which we'll discuss shortly. Thank you, Laura, for that. Kate, when it comes to, we've mentioned that it's really busy, super busy in Costa Rica, especially the popular areas. Is there anywhere that you would suggest for someone that wants to come, but it is going to be slightly quieter? Is there any way of avoiding the crowds? And where are those perhaps really far off the beaten paths that maybe you can recommend?
Yeah. So I mean, when it comes to the holiday travel, hotels will still be sold out, so the hotels will be, packed.
Yeah,
But if you plan it right and you want to avoid the crowds, then going off the beaten path, despite your hotel being fully sold out, it won't feel that way. You'll still feel like where is all the people, but it's because of the where you're at and the
yeah,
vibe of the hotel. So, remote places like Bajas del Toro, Rio Celeste, someone mentioned in the chat, Osa. These places are far away from all the people, so those are really great spots. Even there even in some, well, Osa is a beach location, so like Uvita and further south, there's less people visiting there, and also the hotels there are much smaller. So like
yeah,
one of our favorite hotels in the Osa, Copa de Arbol, they only have 13 bungalows, like total.
yeah,
So they might be sold out, but you're gonna feel like you're in like a secluded oasis island per se.
yeah,
Right? So yeah, if you want to avoid the crowds, definitely opt for more off the beaten path. Maybe sprinkle in some of those best highlights like La Fortuna or Manuel Antonio, but you can definitely incorporate some more remote options so you still feel like you're not surrounded by so many people 24/7.
yeah. That's a really good point. It's really about, at that point, because most places will be booked up, it's about the location and the destination more than actually feeling like you're going to be overwhelmed. And if you do stay in a boutique hotel, of which we sell many, and that's what we love to push, you will
Mhm.
get an experience where you won't feel like people are on the top. I mean, we can even address Jose, the anonymous person asked, is Osa Peninsula a nice place to visit during Christmas regarding crowds? I mean, like Kate says, Osa is a lovely example of, you're going to be quite isolated in the southern region, rainforest. You may see a odd rain shower, not nearly as much as September, October, November. But because the places are so small, you're still going to feel like you have a lot of great service and a lot of seclusion, are you not?
And you could, yes, and you can combine it with the Savegre Mountains. After
Mhm.
being in Osa for a few days, take the Pan American Highway that goes through, from the southern part of Costa Rica up to the mountains. And then you're going to feel like, yes, you're traveling during the holidays, but those areas are going to be off the beaten path and not as traveled by tourists, so it's going to feel more intact. And also, the weather is just phenomenal. You're going to go from the beach, something extremely remote and warm during that time of the year, to the highest altitude of Costa Rica in Savegre. So those two areas are I would say safe enough to avoid the large crowds in a way.
Yeah, that's a really nice topic. And it's a question that perhaps doesn't get asked as much because I don't think people really think about it. You obviously just have the idea you want to be a big family vacation, maybe a resort, you want to be by the beach, and that's great. Obviously, we get that. Definitely plan ahead as we've discussed. But if you are interested in still traveling this time of year because there is nice weather and you have the vacation to do so, those options in Costa Rica are very readily available. I'm going to share, guys, with you the Osa Peninsula link on the site. As you mentioned, Kate, there is great access to the ocean, diving, but also you're in the heart of the rainforest, the real primary subtropical rainforest down there as well. So you get the best of both worlds. In terms of safety, and it's always a nice question to ask, there are more crowds. When people ask you, Kate, specifically at Christmas, hey, how safe is Costa Rica? Is it okay for my kids? I want to bring my family. We're going to be hanging out on the beach all day. How do you respond at this time of year specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes without saying anywhere that you're traveling to a foreign country, whether it's Costa Rica or Belize, Mexico, Europe, I mean, it's always important to be a responsible tourist, as I say, and don't just, be so trustworthy and, have your things
Yeah,
flashing everywhere and leave things, unattended, but especially when there's more crowds because it's easier for people to get away with things because there's so many people and there's so much going on. So when you're traveling over the holidays, I would just take the extra precaution. If you're having a purse, wear it in front of you. Don't put your phone in your back pocket. Little things like that that could happen anywhere. Even like tourists to other tourists, like people,
yeah,
you can't trust people. So just like little things like that. But in particular, like Costa Rica is super, super safe. It's not dangerous in any way. So just your normal busy crowd, holiday travel, being a responsible tourist. I even get a lot of questions like, is it safe for our stuff to be left in the vans when we stop to have lunch or go somewhere. I even had a solo travel the other day ask me, you know, I want to stop over at this waterfall. Can I leave my stuff in my car? And, you know, generally that stuff is okay to do. You just need to be mindful of your surroundings and just, you know, be smart about it. And, you know, in the transportation vehicles, these things are locked up, or usually the driver or somebody else will stay with these things.
Yeah.
So it is all safe. There's precautions. And anywhere that you would be traveling to in Costa Rica is populated. So it's all safe. Everyone is here to have a good time.
Agreed. Yeah, and like you say, it's just about just generally keeping your wits about you, right? There are more people, and that's the case wherever you're traveling. Some people trying to take advantage, but I wouldn't say it differs that much. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So I've got a couple more questions before we get to some of these Q&As that are popping up. Jose, I did want to ask you, so we've discussed about where you can potentially avoid crowds. For someone who's thinking about planning their vacation, what would you say are actually the busiest areas, whether people want to travel there or not, but just so they know? So if I'm coming to Costa Rica next year, where is it going to be slammed?
It's either the Pacific Coast, Guanacaste for sure, North
Yeah.
Pacific, Central Pacific, and Arenal Volcano, Monteverde. Those are four areas that are going to be super busy. You know, remember, I mean, our roads are amazing because they're very scenic, and you drive through waterfalls, rainforests, beautiful rivers, and there's a lot of things to do. But we don't have the infrastructure like, you know, that you got, like, you know, people in the United States or
Yeah,
other
yeah,
countries
yeah.
have. So it's just going to take longer to travel from place to place. So in terms of, you know, avoiding crowds, you know, we also have the Costa Ricans that a lot of people have the 2 weeks off as well. You know, and people from the government, they're already off. You know what I mean? And they're going to spend Christmas with their families. And then for New Year's, they're going to flock to the beaches, the mountains, just like Easter. So it not only we have the foreigners, you know, the foreign travelers, that's adding up to more than 2 million people a year now in Costa Rica. So we also have the Costa Ricans that travel during that time of year. So the roads become, you know, busy, very busy.
That's a really good point.
And
It's not just the areas where you're going to stay. I mean, the amount of people moving between destinations,
oh, yeah.
the locals as
And
well as the tourists.
and
Yeah.
planning ahead, you know, with transportation, you know, especially a lot of people that, you know, drive, you know, a few hours to make it to the airport, you know,
Yeah.
and always, you know, they say, you know, well, I don't want to leave at, you know, the hotel, you know, 4 hours before or something like that. I'm like, I'm sorry, but you have to. I mean, we're not doing this to bother you. I had a client the other
Yeah.
day that she was like back and forth with me, and then and I was giving my advice, and I said, listen, plan ahead. We gotta get you to the airport on time. And then she's like, no, I'm out of my pickup time. I want to pick up time 4 hours. And I'm like, all right. So as long as you're responsible of you losing the flight, we're not going to be responsible for that. She came back to me and she said, you win. And I said, it's not about winning. I don't want you. The worst feeling is to be stuck in a road because there's an accident
Yeah.
or a amount of cars and you have a couple of hours to make it to the international airport. That's the worst feeling. Even when I plan, you know, for my own international trip, I usually make it to the airport 3 hours, you know, in advance. I'd rather, you know, kill time at the airport, sitting and watch airplanes, but not
Yeah.
freaking out in the road trying to say,
Not being
am
able to
I
get
going to
there.
make my flight? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Just
And something unique to Costa Rica too that I always like put in people's head is, you know, most of the roads are two lanes, one
two
way this
lanes.
way and one way that way. So, you know, alongside the traffic, particular to Costa Rica, if there's a sloth crossing the road, everybody stops until that sloth gets across the
That's
road. You
true.
might be waiting for 10 minutes. If there's a lizard, everyone's halting because it's like a huge iguana crossing. Also, you know, pineapple trucks, orange trucks, cows, like these trucks, they go really, really slow. And when you're on a windy road, you cannot pass them. So then that causes traffic. So little things particular to Costa Rica that we know as locals happen even when it's low season, we take into account because it always, like, anything can happen, especially
Yeah.
if you're going into the mountains. It gets, like Jose was mentioning a few minutes ago, it gets really foggy. It gets foggy, like you cannot see your hand in front of your face, like you gotta go really, really slow. So just all these different factors are important to take into account when the travel time back to the airport or to any destination.
No, I think that's a really good point. It's as I'm about to ask you about your tips, your top tips, patience is such a key, but also to listen to your travel consultant, your travel experts. Like Jose, you just mentioned it. Kate, you're right. If you're in the mountains and there happens to be cows, coming from one side to the other, you can't really do much. So the patience is not something that we're always used to, especially if you're traveling from abroad or another country. It's a bit faster, right? That's a good one. Yeah, no, guys, you've been provided some excellent information traveling at this time of year. I'm going to go ahead and add both of your contact information in the chat. So if anybody wants to reach out to you to plan their own trip, it doesn't have to be Christmas, it can be next year. If you're planning on coming for spring break, well, you should have done that a couple of months ago. But hey, Easter's still available. And you've always got next Christmas, they could reach out to you directly. My final question to both of you is, what is your one top tip? Jose, let's start with you. What's your one top tip for booking your vacation for next Christmas to Costa Rica? We've discussed a lot, but is there one thing you think people should keep top of mind?
Even if you don't have tentative date, you don't even have like set dates in mind, just, narrow down some dates that, are going to work around your kids, schedule of school or if it work, try to put something together, doesn't have to be the firm dates, but let's work with that first. Just give me a set of dates that it will work for you. And if we need to adjust a day or two, then that's an easy thing to do. We'll take care of that. But, thinking about, maybe this or maybe not, it changes the whole dynamic and the purpose of availability. So just with some information, with some dates in advance, that's gonna, make your lives easier for, for you and for us, that we can, take care of your reservations, so
yeah. So
plan ahead with
plan
dates.
early, get your
Plan
initial
early.
idea plan, get it locked in, and then, but it's important that obviously if you do want to change the dates, you don't want to try and change them down the line too close, because a lot of these hotels may then still struggle to be able to move that same vacation. But I can see that makes a lot of sense. Plan in advance.
And always another thing that I've learned, for so many years is that, even if you don't have the set dates, try to add 1 or 2 days at the beginning or at the end, because, if you're waiting to book your flights, and if sometimes, if you arrive in San Jose or Liberia, late at night, you're going to be, not required, suggested to spend the first night in San Jose.
Yeah.
And if your outbound flight is quite early in the morning, which always experience with the flights going to the West Coast, that normally, they're red eyes, or, flights that arrive late at night and they leave quite early in the morning. So, having an extra night there as a pillow just to get you in San Jose the night before, always keep that in consideration. So, just have 1 or 2 nights at the end. That could be a lifesaver just in terms of accommodating your flights.
Agreed. That's a great one. That's a very, very good one, especially from the West Coast. Come on then, Kay, what's your top tip for booking this time of the crazy season at Christmas?
Yeah, so for Costa Rica specifically, when you're working with us, 2 things come to mind. One, trust in us, that we really know like how things go down. We've been doing this for a while and we see the patterns. So, when we say, if you come to me in February trying to book a trip in December, and I say, yeah, there's 2 rooms left, I promise you I'm not lying. Like, it's a real thing. I just did it yesterday at Brenes Del Mar in Manuel Antonio. Their Playita suite, gone. The whole week is already booked for December 2026. So it's true. Just trust us that we're not giving you a sales pitch. Like, this is the reality of the situation. And our top priority, other than your safety, is your experience. So that, and then just being open-minded and open to options. When you're planning, it might not seem like the cookie cutter trip that you have painted in your head, but we're here to give you the best experience, and to also sprinkle in some unique ideas as well that could ultimately save your trip. Like Jose was saying, adding a night or 2 at the end of your trip, maybe it's not the full length that you want to go, but going ahead and just booking it, knowing you can cancel that room later, if you cancel it, of course, enough in advance, with no penalty, as long as you have it. Because if you do need to move your dates around and you have those nights booked, no problem. But if you don't, then there's no room to move you. So we might have to move, hotels, or you might have to stick with those dates and then go with this more expensive flight. So just trusting us, being open-minded, and just planning ahead for any possible situation, whether that's planning for 10 nights, but really you want to do 7 nights as a cushion.
Yeah,
Eh,
that's that point about flexibility is so important.
Flexibility, that's a good word.
Yeah, a lot of people come and want to book their trip in September, October, November. Hey, what's available? If you're flexible, we have enough rooms that we try to reserve as well with our best hotels and best partners. So we have specific allotments as one of the leading agencies here in Costa Rica to give you guys more flexibility. But like you say, trust. You have to be able to trust in us to help you put the jigsaw together, where sometimes it might not be the perfect route or the best thing that you wanted if you didn't book 10 months in advance, but you can still come down. So that flexibility is certainly a really good one.
And also, Adam, just to chip in there, one of the things that made us great is our travel experience concierge service that we have in country. I've worked in the travel industry, nearly 30 years, and I've worked with Costa Rican Vacations for over 4 years now. And hands down, we are the best travel company that would take care of you in any minute. So travel with someone like us, especially during the holidays. You never know. There's delays, there's things that come up. Your kids leave an iPad or an iPhone in the transportation. You're halfway to the beach and you're like, oh no, we left it. What are we going to do? Guess what? Our travel concierge service will get it to you the next day. You left your passports in your safety deposit box halfway the transit. What are we going to do? No worries. We'll get it to you the next day at no extra cost. That's exactly what we do. You want to travel during the holidays with someone who is behind you and making sure your trip, it goes uneventful, as pleasant as possible. We'll guarantee it. But that's one of the best added values that we have as a company. The team that makes sure that everything is taken care of during your travels.
I couldn't agree more. Big shout out to our travel experience team,
Absolutely.
who are literally
Absolutely.
entering their busiest 2-3 week period in the entire year, where we even get more resources on our operational side, just to make sure, as you say, everything goes as smoothly for everyone as possible. And they don't get enough shout outs. So on the webinar, travel experience team, great work. And next week, everyone appreciates you, especially the clients as well as the staff here. So yeah, I agree entirely.
Hey,
Guys,
Adam, do we have 30 more seconds for me to end with one little quick
of
tidbit?
course, for sure.
Okay, so piggybacking off of Jose, we love to boast about our travel experience team because they are just so amazing. But another point to add, when working with us specifically, because we are locals, a little story here. So ourselves and all of our travel experience, like we're all locals, and our travel experience team, they're all Costa Ricans. So we have really close relationships with the hotels, tour guides. We know personally, some of them are friends. So, and things like, you're walking on a hanging bridge and you drop your phone down into the rainforest. Typically, if that were to happen with somebody not booking with us, their phone is gone. But this has happened to a client of mine, and reach out to travel experience, and we have connections, and they got the guide to go and get their phone from the rainforest that's like hundreds of feet down. So it's like little things like that that sets us apart, because we really, really care, and we're all connected. We're a big family. So it's like, hey Pablo, or hey Gabriela or Amate, like in these other hotels, like, can you help us out? And they're like, sí, no problema, por la vida, like, we got you.
It's a really, really good point. And as mentioned in last month's webinar, we're celebrating 25 years now in business, a quarter of a century. That goes a long way in terms of partnerships with everyone that we work with around the country, and speaks volumes to that story. And what a great story, because usually when you're that high up in a hanging bridge, you're probably not seeing that phone again. That's quite impressive.
Adios, not a phone. Yeah, he got his phone back. I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. I bet that tour guide got a really good tip.
Sure he did.
And we don't actually, we don't think about those little things, unexpected things that can happen, when we're prepping up for a trip, but they happen. And to have a team behind you that makes sure that everything is just going to be, we're going to go out of the way just to make sure that you are, having a wonderful time in Costa Rica. It's unbelievably valuable. It is one of the most valuable things to travel abroad, hands down.
Fantastic.
Service makes or breaks things. It really does.
Absolutely.
It's a very good point from the start to finish, all the way through.
Start to finish.
Guys, you have been fantastic. Your emails are in the chat. So Jose Brenes there and Caitlin Summer, people can reach out to you directly. We got a couple of minutes to look at our Q&A section. We've already answered one question about the Osa Peninsula during Christmas, which is a great place if you're looking to go to a more quieter corner, even when it's busy. We've got a couple of questions here. I'm going to throw this over to you, Kate. Laura's asking, what's the best activity for kids during a Christmas trip? Is there any must do? Does it vary any differently from the rest of the year? What might you recommend?
Yeah, so personally, I mean, I think kids love lights. So I just think if you talk to your travel consultant about this particular thing and ask them, what's the best thing, we'll figure out a way to coordinate, like I think a stop in one of the local towns to see the lights, or doing like a little day. Obviously, you're not usually traveling at night, but doing like a little day trip in, or if you're in a close town like La Fortuna, for example, you can go into the town from your hotel and just walk around. Like just doing that and like feeling all of the festivities around you and the warmth and the love and all the lights is something really, really special. And then if you can, taking like a cooking class, because during the holidays, they're probably going to be doing the traditional tamales, rompope. And so getting hands-on with not only traditional food, but also the traditional food during the traditional holiday season too is a really great way to be in the culture and learn about the traditions.
Perfect. And that's a lovely segue, Jose, because the other question, this person is also anonymous. What are some of the local traditions? So we've touched on them about the festivities, the lights. You've mentioned tamales, which are very Christmas food here in Latin America, and also rompope, if you want something a little bit stronger, eggnog with something special. Is there any other Christmas traditions that's worth mentioning before we sign off?
The pozole is with the corn, and it's very unheard of. Not a lot of people are like
Pozol. I've never heard of it.
Pozol, Pozol, pozol.
Pozol.
It's like a stew of corn.
Pozole.
Pozole. Well, pozole it's in Mexico, but in Costa Rica it's pozole, and you can mix it, with vegetables, and it's just like a stew. You put it in the stove for a couple of hours, and it usually comes with pork. I know a lot of people don't eat pork and stuff, but you can either do it with chicken or just make it in vegetable. But pozole, it should be available in this little sodas where they sell the tamales. It's also homemade. My grandma used to make a delicious pozole, and I loved it. But it's one of the things that I'm looking forward to. Pozol, tamal, and rompope. Those are the three must-haves in Costa Rica for your holidays.
Well, I see. This is
a lot of hotels probably don't have it, but that's what you have our drivers. Our drivers are very knowledgeable. You have them stop over at a local eatery at a soda, and try to bite of a tamal or pozole and rompope. Even rompope is good for they have it without rum as well, so it could be good for the kids, but it's something that is very authentic and of Costa Rica for that time of the year. So
that's a great way to finish. Even now, as I approach nearly 20 years living in here, there's always some fruit. Now I've learned something else today about something else to chat. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's been a fascinating conversation. As mentioned, for those of you that weren't able to make it, this is going to be, or maybe you started late in the webinar, this will be released tomorrow, so you can watch back and hopefully you can get all the kind of tips and questions answered for your Costa Rica Christmas travel experience. Jose, Caitlin, thank you so much for your time. You've been excellent today.
Feliz Navidad.
Feliz Navidad, as they say. Feliz Navidad. And everybody get to their rompope and pozole. That's what I'm looking for. Guys, stay in touch and hopefully we'll see you on another webinar in 2025. So take care and hasta la próxima. Feliz Navidad.